what is it you're finding that people are coming to you and asking? We've gone through COVID, and there was a sort of I think a realization of the fact that dealing with customers at a distance required certain measures to be taken. And the professional services sector in general, so not just the financial advisor sector where we're prolific, all of them are dealing with end customers. They're very client-centric. They deal with sensitive data every day. And with email still is probably the most prevalent method of speaking to our clients at a distance, preferred method. I think it'd be interesting to understand, what sort of questions do you get? What day-to-day are the sort of problems you get faced with or asked? Let's start with Carol.
Well, I guess first of all, what we need to sort of think about is the kind of people that are coming to us, asking, to know about Maillock. And we still get people coming to us, probably smaller firms that haven't yet come up with, haven't yet got a solution in the business for this. And it's really satisfying in my job to speak to a firm who has been worried about this. And it seems like you mentioned the surge, Paul, and I think whether it's consumer duty or whatever it is, especially at the start of 2023, we've had a real uptick in the smaller firms coming to us saying, I really need to sort this out now. This has been worrying me. It's really nice to do a demo to those types of firms and at the end of it, receive the feel, this is just what I've been looking for. This is great. This is one less thing I have to worry about.
What do you think some of the reservations have been getting here? Because I know you said to me a few times, I don't think people realise that this is something that will just work off the cuff. It's not...
Possibly. But possibly, people look at tech and think it's going to be painful. People are busy. People have got day jobs. Have they got time to sort of test systems, look at systems, etc.? And the realization that this is so easy to deploy and install. And, you can download the Maillock add-in, register for the trial, and be sending secure emails in the afternoon. That's as quick and easy as it is. It's totally integrated with your email. All things that people seem to really like. Probably the second demographic of people, and probably the rump of the people that come to us are those that have got existing systems within the businesses that maybe are not ticking all the boxes, or maybe are a little bit more cumbersome than they'd like them to be. Things like portals where businesses might not be getting full adoption across their client base, and are maybe reverting to email for those clients that are, for whatever reason, reticent to engage with that portal. For those clients who want that information sent direct to their inbox, not have to retrieve it from a portal. And, things like password protecting, especially, again, first quarter of this year, we seem to be getting a lot of larger firms who've been probably password protecting maybe ever since 2018. And, it's just, they will, at the end of a demo in Maillock, we'll always say that's much easier than what we're doing now. That's so much better. That solves that problem of that gap where we're not getting engagement with a certain set of people on the portal. That will complement the portal perfectly.
In fact, from your point of view, Hugh, we talk about this too. You're always saying to me, this is not just about ticking regulatory boxes. There are other facets to this system that people realise can have a real positive impact. A lot of time tech's an overhead and then it's friction. You guys particularly are in that loop of feeding back in to say, look, we've got to make sure that we think about this and think about that. What are your thoughts around?
I think it's very hard to say there's no one answer fits all solutions. I think people come at it differently. I think there's a lot of reticence about technology. I think some of the demographic that we're dealing with, people think, oh, that's technology, it's for younger people, or it's beyond me. And then once they use the system, they think, oh, actually, this is actually quite easy. This is actually not as hard as I thought it was. I think people, certainly, particularly in financial services, seem to segmentalize their business, though. They think, oh, I'll get it securely, but I don't necessarily need to send it securely. But also, when you talk to people, they seem to think that they get the post isn't quite safe anymore, but they think email as a generic thing is safe.
Yeah.
There was just an incident in the office the other day where somebody asked to send a credit card statement, and they said, oh, don't worry, we got a firewall. It's protected. And it was like, so there's a general misunderstanding of email traffic, how insecure email is in transit. And I think we did a lot about personal data and identifiable data, and I think people don't appreciate the problem that is not necessarily their problem, but is a global problem. Or they might have a little nugget of somebody's information, but somebody else has got the other bit of that information, and putting the whole thing together can identify somebody. And that's what every company should be so aware in their minds. Have I got something that with somebody else's information could identify an individual? If they are, then that is in breach.
And this whole thing about identity is interesting. The last couple of days, Meta have announced that they're getting involved in identity. You don't get, $1 trillion businesses that get interested in the subject we've been, I think, championing for a long time. That email is natively unsecure. What we're trying to do is make it feasible. And something else, Gary, you mentioned actually when we were talking about this session was we've been quite conscious, I think, of ensuring that the tech tries to even up the balance a bit. Of course, we provide big kit that can fit us, a big kit that can sit within a big enterprise's, infrastructure and be sympathetic to all their other cyber software and provisions. But at the same time, the professional services is a people business, and as a consequence, it's not unusual to have smaller businesses. They're equally as important, have equally the same problems. And we tried to create tech that enables that evens of, gives it a fighting chance of having some of those same controls and checks and balances. Probably the most important person in all this, though, is the consumer. And I think one of the other questions that kept coming up was, my customers aren't going to like this, which is resoundingly not the case. I mean, from what I understand, if it is communicated in the right way, there are no couple of results.
I think there's a really important point there. I think we provide at the end, or I will provide at the end of every demo session, and some narrative, some content that a firm can use to introduce the adoption of MailNock to their clients. And I think this is really, really important, because I think if consumers are aware and informed of why you're doing something, what it does for them, it's a totally different story to being presented with something that they don't know.
I think it almost flips it the other way.
Yeah, totally.
You start asking, why aren't you doing this? And that's the point. So there's almost an advocacy piece there, isn't there? But the fact you're ensuring that, in dealing with this sensitive stuff, you're respecting your client's data and things. I think, I know we've had a few people feedback really.
It's certainly a service. I feel it's a service that the firm should be saying to their clients that it's an extra service we are offering, and it shows the commitment of that brand to the security of the data of their consumers and their end recipients.
And that also leads into the other bit you talked about, is operational efficiency, because of course this isn't about outbound comms. This is about being able to swap information, when you need that passport copy, when you need that utilities bill, whatever it might be, the ID, the ability for that person to reply and send you information. And you talked about...
Yeah, and I think, there's loads of things all coming together at the same time. You've got now, for an end consumer, you virtually now cannot buy something online with a credit card without being sent a code or something in an app to verify your identity. So that people are used to that now. They accept that is keeping their money safe. And I think probably if you listed people's priorities, money would be their main thing. They don't want to lose money. But then they think, oh, my identity, I want to protect that. So actually, consumers, I think, are much more aware of what's going on in the world now, rather than they ever been before. So I think they want to protect themselves. And I think that linking it all together, we've got the ability now for end users to have free accounts, so they can communicate backwards with whoever sent them the message, or then on to somebody else. It's a whole. We've closed the circle in terms of that communication loop. So they can receive, they can send back. It's fairly frictionless now. It's just a mindset, I think. Just getting over that, this is going to be complicated. Actually, isn't it going to be complicated? But it's just getting over that bit, I think.
And I think it's also possibly the misunderstanding. Obviously, we've got some very large enterprise clients that are now choosing to communicate with their own customers, which again is very flattering. To be a stakeholder in that part of their important, their communications ecosystems. And with the advisors, what the advisors probably don't realise or understand is their obligations possibly. And and the fact the very same system can be employed to communicate with their customers about the same sensitive topics. You know, and that's the bit I think we're keen to make sure people understand. This isn't a unidirectional sort of piece of kit. It's meant to. The ecosystem is growing now, you know, with many millions of customers, tens of thousands of advisors, many tens of thousands, and their support staff.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the biggest thing that when people contact us, they say, "Oh, we don't need it anymore." That makes no logical sense. Why? How can you not need it anymore? You know, unless you've retired or given up the business, you clearly do need it. And I think people don't think about how they could use the same information to pass it down to all their clients. You know, the biggest data breach is still sending the right email to the wrong person. And it's so easy in email. You type somebody's first name and then you do it quickly and you don't even look.
Autofill,
and it autofills it and you sent it, and then it's like,
it's
wow.
easy stuff.
And then under that, then is also that you've actually sent somebody else's data to the wrong person. So you've got the email right, but you put somebody else's data in there. So, and it's all those things that people don't quite consider as being huge potential data breaches.
I think the ecosystem that Paul referenced as well is really important from linking all that together as well, because, you know, at the end of any demo, for the person watching that demo to realize what we're trying to do here with this ecosystem, that the intermediaries can talk to the providers who can then come back to them. They can go out to the client can come back, you know, everybody within every actor in any transactional situation can access the same tech, exactly the same tech, the same capability at a price point that suits them, from the enterprise to the £8.50 per user per month on the intermediary to the free for the client. All talking together totally securely. So during the course of any transaction, a mortgage, whatever it might be, that data is always fully protected.
I think the other one that's also worth just saying, it's to sort of dispel any misgivings or miscomprehension. I mean, I remember, and it doesn't happen anymore actually, when we first started this journey, people were saying, well, email will disappear, you know, eventually, isn't it? Well, we're at 350 billion email sent and received every day. That's projected to hit 390 billion within 3 years, I think, maybe a little shorter. So we're on nothing but an upward spike. And actually COVID accelerated that whole piece and in fact increased adoption and receptiveness from consumers, so that, you know, you'll be surprised, you know, my 83-year-old mum, you know, uses email now. I mean, in fairness, it took a bit of time to get used to it, and actually I bought her a smart device, not because I was trying to contact her on email, but because of FaceTime. But I'm not alone, we're not unique. You know, when I started looking into this, a lot of people did that with the same motive. And smart device usage is prevalent in every demographic actually now. So I think the world's changed, and it's going to continue to propel that side of things. So it's good to understand some of the challenges.
I don't think you can survive in the world without a smart device. I don't know how people survive. I recently went up at a tower in Italy, and you needed to go online to buy your ticket, and then how do people do these things without a smartphone?
The other one I think is also interesting, as well as stating, is that people, those who have a personal email address now, statistically, the majority today would have held that email address for more than 10 years. So you're more likely to stay in contact with them, ironically, digitally, with their email address than you are physically. Mad. Mad. World's changed.
I think there's been a few surveys recently as well. I don't know why, some larger, you know, beginning of this year, asking consumers how they want to be communicated with, again, referencing Consumer Duty. And email is king.
I think one of the
if you look at that option, is it's either phone call, text, or email, and logic takes you, because you think, okay, that's not going to interrupt me, so I'll go for the email, because it's the softer option, but you're getting the contact, don't you? I mean, that's what
I think it's also human behaviour, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, we've all got lots of portals, 120 apparently, you know, whether it's your BAMRs or your Tesco shop. But unfortunately, when you've got 120 inboxes, quite naturally that, you know, leads to lethargy, you know, whereas if you can use the one you're connected with personally, that helps a lot. So
I think on the operational efficiency as well, anybody watching this, all they need to do really is ask themselves, think about the last transaction situation they were in, whether it be a mortgage or an investment or a pension or whatever it was. think about along that during that transaction were the pinch points where a secure email would have A, helped, and B, reduced stress, because these things are stressful. You know, people applying for a mortgage, it's stressful for the advisor, it can be stressful for the applicant if things get stuck at certain pinch points because there is no obvious way to communicate and to transfer a document. Think about that. Think about, well, actually, that would have really helped too. I could have just access to a secure email solution that is, going to keep everything, protected. Would that have helped? And that will really, I think, resonate with regards to operational efficiency.
And also, when you send things, you always want to know, has the person seen it? Have they read it?
Have they opened the document? All that stuff,
And that's one of the biggest things. Okay, you've ticked your box because you've sent it, but ultimately you want to know, well, why haven't they replied yet? Is it not? Have they not got it? Have they not read it? Have they not said it? So I think the ability to be able to know quite easily. Oh yeah, it's been received. They've opened it, so I could be rested. They've got it.
Or if you've done that horrible moment, I'm sure we've all done it. Oops, wrong person.
Yeah.
Clicking the button to revoke it. That all those controls, those checks, those balances, and that order. It's powerful. Not just from a compliance perspective, but from a sales perspective. When you know someone's got something and it's the right person, first of all, and secondly, they'll open the document. Well, that's the perfect point to intersect or interject, should I say, in a sales inquiry, isn't it? So these are sort of use cases I think we come up against all the time.
Totally. Well, if you're an advisor and you're being chased, at least you can say, well, they got it. They just haven't. They haven't actually. Get on to them.
Again, referencing Consumer Duty, they are advising they're going to have to be able to demonstrate that their client has fully understood what was proposed to them. If you can see on an audit trail that they've opened that email, that they've opened those attachments, you are demonstrating that they have been fully versed, fully informed about what you are proposing. So again, a really useful sales tool, really useful.